So I want to tell you, when you take a random sample of the population and you ask them to define what they mean by equality, they'll actually all say very different things. In general, there are two very specific type of equalities: equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. Equality of opportunity means everyone should be given the same opportunities. If you want to join the IITs, you should be able to give the JEE, right? Just like everybody else should be able to give the JEE. If you want to be a doctor, you should be able to go through medicine, just like everybody else. You shouldn't be banned from it or prevented from it. The other thing, equality of outcome, is where things get a little more dangerous. Equality of outcome means no matter what happens, you should be paid the same as the next guy. Now, when I say that equality is a bad idea, I specifically talk about equality of outcome. Because if you go on Twitter today, it's become about that, right? People keep telling Elon Musk or this or that, oh, you should just give all this money to everybody, right? You should just split your 100 billion or 200 billion and give it to every citizen in the world and they'd be better off. Basically, what you're doing is you're cutting him down and you're saying, we will average this out so that everyone has the same output. I'm a big fan of equality of opportunity. No matter your race, your color, your height, you should still be allowed every opportunity. But equality of outcome is one of the most dangerous thoughts known to man. And we should shut it down before it gets bigger on Twitter. Here is why. See, suppose there are two people. Let's say Rahul and Ramesh. Suppose Rahul has worked very hard. He's worked 10 times as hard as Ramesh. Maybe let's say sales. Maybe he's actually closed 100 sales. Shouldn't his commission be higher than the other person who has basically done nothing? Suppose he just sat and watched Netflix the entire week. Should that person be paid the same as Rahul? Obviously no, right? Rahul's put in more hard work, more energy, more effort. So why does everyone think that taking Elon Musk's 200 billion and splitting amongst people is a good idea? Hasn't Elon Musk put the work, put the energy? Elon Musk was making games since he was 13, right? Learning about internals of a computer since he was 13. He slept on the floor of Tesla. He's done a lot more than the average person has, right? So why should the average person have the same amount as his money, split among n number of people? Now the argument that people give is, well, a few millions is fine, a few billions is not. Well, that's stupid because a person with, say, a few $1 million still has that much more than, say, somebody in Africa with very, very, very little capital. Maybe negative capital, maybe that person's in debt. Because it is relative, the same argument you're making at $1 billion holds good at a few $1 million. So it's not a good idea to raise down somebody else's building and make small buildings for everybody else. And the cool thing about equality of opportunity is that these different segments auto-segregate. They segregate by themselves. For example, if you take men and women, you want to give them both the opportunity to become whether nurses or engineers. You want to give both of them opportunities. But the thing is, women, because of their programming, by default, go and take the nurse's role. And men, by default, go and take engineering roles. It's just programming of these two sexes that do this automatically. See, I also don't believe in unlimited equality of opportunity, right? Because you could say that, well, that family has a butler. We should also have a butler, right? I don't believe in that. I feel like equality of opportunity up till a baseline. Food, shelter, application to jobs, stuff like that, baseline, everybody should have the same opportunity, right? But beyond that, some families will obviously have more. Life is unfair and random. We better get used to it, right? I feel like people are very averse to the idea of the fact that life is unfair and random, right? You got to get used to it and you got to understand it. That's why we shouldn't be comparing people by how much money did this person make versus how much money did this person make. That guy might have started from scratch. The other guy might have had $1 billion in his bank account. You never know. That's why I feel forcing equality of outcome on every single person is a bad idea, right? Today, I think in the US, if you made a lot of wealth, the proposed wealth taxes are insane. People are going to leave USA for sure. Especially people who are smart, willing to work hard, they're going to leave because they're going to be like, what's the point? If I make more money, you're going to steal more money from me. Versus if somebody's just lazing on his couch, he barely pays taxes. And he's living off, stimulus checks, which you're giving him for free. So even though America calls itself a capitalist democracy, they're suspiciously acting like a socialist country right now. Especially with their ideas of stimulus checks. They actually implemented that. The ideas of huge wealth taxes. They're just trying to cut everyone to size. And that is a bad idea because different people work at different rates. Different people have different interests. And obviously an engineer is going to make more money than a nurse. So these sort of segregations are bound to happen. You can't equalize everything. It's not going to work. So socialism has a very interesting concept around this. To each according to their contribution. The problem with that is we don't live in an era of labor. It's not like everyone's on a farm And this person has worked 10 hours, that person's worked 8 hours, so the guy with 8 hours has to be given 8 out of 10, the guy with 10 hours has to be given 10 out of 10. It doesn't work like that. Look at research, right? Suppose you're doing research on trying to find new chemicals, suppose. You could spend years of your life working 10 hours a day with no return, with nothing coming out of it, right? All failed opportunities, all failed outcomes. But at the same time, you could have a guy who just starts research today, works for 8 hours, and finds by randomness, by luck, some new medicine or some new chemical that has huge commercial activity. In today's world, we reward the guy who worked 8 hours with that brand new thing, who worked 8 hours and got lucky. We don't reward the guy who worked 5 years and didn't get unlucky. Now you might say we need to, try and beat that randomness of life. This randomness that causes such huge distribution gaps, even though this guy works so little and this guy works so much. But we unfortunately can't do that because life and nature are way too random for human beings. Right? And chances are, because skill level improves over time, the guy doing 5 years of research will eventually come up with something. Whereas it's actually unlikely for the guy with 8 hours of work to come up with something. And plus, it's also possible that the guy who's working 5 years just did 10 hours of no work. I see this a lot in college research labs, right? The researchers are doing nothing. They're just lazing away reading a book and they're getting a stipend for it. And on the other hand, there are some researchers who are working so hard, who don't really care about the stipend. They're looking for gold in these test tubes. So giving people according to time, especially with things like research, does not make sense. The smarter guy will always use shortcuts, and shortcuts take a lot less time. And if you give people amount of money based on the amount of time they've spent on it, obviously it doesn't reward you to take shortcuts. All the machines we created are essentially shortcuts in life, right? It adds convenience to our lives. So we'd never have created this infrastructure. So Bernard Shaw was one of the pillars of socialism. And he actually came out with the thesis of equal outcome. And he was a very big proponent of equal outcome. And I'm not a big proponent of equal outcome. Always remember, life is random and some people just get lucky. There is nothing wrong with that. What you have to do is change your mindset and stop comparing yourself to the next guy. And that is how you overcome this. Equal opportunity up to a certain point, but not equal outcome. That's it for me. Bye.